By the time you were a teenager, you had already amassed a really impressive career. Let's talk a little bit about your early work.
Okay. What would you like to know? Going back to my teens or into television? Okay, first television show I did, I gotta thank Sandy Becker from New York City. As I say, I was a puppeteer, and I started working with a gentleman by the name of Paul Ashley. And Paul was like my dad. He was like one of the greatest guys on the planet. And he was working on a show called Rudy Kazooie, which was on NBC. And I'm going back to the beginnings of TV, back to when Milton Berle was on, and Howdy Doody, and Rudy Kazooie, and mostly puppets on television. They did all the children's shows, except for like Pinky Lee, but he had puppets also. The Ritz puppets, Paul and Mary Ritz did wonderful puppets, and the Bunnin puppets, Lucky Pup, and of course Snarky Parker, and that was a master puppeteer, Bill and Corbett, and they had their own puppet theater downtown New York. I mean, puppets run down on the arm from the puppet to a heart, which is different than animation, and they can develop their own character, and they become live. Okay, I just happen to have one here. This is a guy I used on my show a lot, and his name was Cyrus McNasty, and Mr. McNasty, I would call him. And let me see if I can, there it is. Okay. Can you see McNasty?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to get out of the way because I'm not a ventriloquist, not a good one. Yeah. Oh, hi, Colin. How you doing?
Hello.
Can you see me? How's it going, man? TV land. Boy, I want to tell you, this is exciting, Colin, because what we're doing is something new. You know what I mean? This isn't just a podcast with the radio and the visual. We got the visual going here. So it's like the early days of TV, like that's what he grew up in, and only isn't it amazing? I knew this guy way back about 30, 35 years ago when he worked with me on that show at WPIX New York. I haven't changed a bit. But Fatso's gotten older, now he's got a beard. Hey, look, just watch yourself. Just talk to Colin, be nice. Try. Anyway, that television was back. I mean, when McCann did TV, it was back so far back in time that television was gas-driven. You didn't plug in your set, you lit a pilot. Now, a pilot in those days was something you lit to start the TV. See? Now, okay. Yeah. You're confusing it was like, yeah. And Mr. McCann knew all the people now. He would tell him, Mr. McCann, tell him about Mr. DuMont. Okay. When I was a kid and I was working on DuMont, I used to walk around the halls and there was a man called Dr. DuMont, and I used to see Dr. DuMont. And I would say, hey, Dr. DuMont, how are you? He'd say, hi, Charles, how are you? Dr. DuMont invented the Orthicon tube and those tubes. And I mean, he was like one of the first guys to work on inventing television as it became. Like, it was amazing to know this man. When I look in the history books, I mean, it's like knowing Edison, you know? And it wasn't that long ago. I mean, not really, not to me anyway. Well, it was to me. Anyway, he was a terrific guy, and we had a lot of fun both on WPIX. Well, we started on Rudy Kazooie, and then we worked with Johnny Andrews on NBC's Today Show and The Tonight Show, and that was when they were live. And we would do the show 2 and 3 times because they'd join up with the networks, you know, so they had little puppet bits that we would do. folks, so the networks could join each other. And that's what Paul and Chuck did. Anyway, and I'd be part of that. And then Chuck wound up with his own show with Laurel and Hardy and Chuck. So I'm going to let Chuck tell you about that, because that goes back a long time. And I'm totally bored with McCann anyway. Okay, well anyway, I wound up doing this show called Laurel and Hardy and Chuck. Stan Laurel was like my dad. And I found him in the phone. And it was just fascinating. Because I called him up, an operator, and I said, I love Stan Laurel. Do you have a Stan Laurel in Hollywood thing? And the operator said, and I was like 12. And she said, how old are you? I said, 12. She said, do they know you're calling California? In those days, you spoke to an operator. And I said, I'd like to speak to Stan Laurel. I said, one minute. And she said, I have a Stan Laurel at the Oceana apartment. I said, would you please dial it for me? And she transferred me through to Stan. And the phone rang, and Stan picked up the phone. Hello, how are you? Who's this, please? I said, this is Chuck McCann. I'm calling from, well, hello, lad. How are you? How old are you? I said, 12. He said, oh my goodness, does your parents know that you're calling me? I said, obviously, other kids also had the same idea I had and were calling. And I said, yes. So I said, it's okay. And I spoke to Stan. And I called him. I ran up such a bill that, so whatever money I was making, I was sure paying all back through these telephone calls to Stan Laurel. So I called him like once a week, and once a month, once a week. And then finally, later on, when I started working, I was calling him every day. And I was talking to him. We had communicated by letters and so forth. I had about 400 or 500 letters from Stan. It was just an unbelievable association, because, here I am talking to this genius who I loved, and he was like my father. He became the stepfather of my child, Sean, and by proxy. And so, when I went to do a television show in New York, the men at WPIX said to me, well, what would you like to do? I said, you use Laurel and Hardy on rain outfits. In other words, I use them during a ball game at Yankee Stadium. If it started to rain, they would run a Laurel and Hardy cartoon or a two-reeler. And so they would start them whenever it was threatening rain. And then they would join it in progress, so they knew exactly where it would end. And with Laurel and Hardy, you can start it anywhere. Anyway, so that's how I started. And the show was live, and the show was only in New York, on cable to Philadelphia and to a couple of other areas that were further away upstate New York. And we had about 12 million people watching at that time. But that was the largest market in the country. So if something was successful there, then they would do one in Chicago, and they would do one in Cleveland, and so forth and so on. And that's what they did. They wound up taking that package of all the Laurel and Hardy films, started running them with various hosts throughout the country. So a good friend of mine, Ernie Anderson, was doing a show called Gallardi in Cleveland, and so he wound up doing Gallardi with Laurel and Hardy. So his show was called Laurel and Hardy and Gallardi. And I went to do his show, and he came to do my show. So we swapped shows. Well, that's the beginning of my career in television. Yeah, so let's think of this as chapter 1, okay?